Ahead of COP27, taking place this November in Egypt, the Bezos Earth Fund is publishing plans to reverse deforestation and land degradation on 100 million hectares in Africa by 2030, said Andrew Steer, the fund's chief executive. The so-called Afra 100 initiative is led by African Union countries.
Even before the war in Ukraine and even before COVID, things were very unfair for Africa. I mean, African farmers are suffering, appallingly from climate change. And at a time like this, when rich countries have now spent, $16 trillion on ourselves during the COVID period, building back better, sadly, funding for developing countries has fallen. So what we've been trying to do, and then this year, obviously, with rising fuel prices, rising food prices, I think the World Bank now estimates 100 million people will fall back into poverty, not only in Africa, but worldwide.
Developing countries, meanwhile, are increasing demands for wealthier carbon-emitting nations to pay for climate-induced disasters like floods, fires or famine.
One of the things that we're doing is trying to create a narrative that is a pro-growth, pro-poor, pro-resilient, pro-climate narrative. And landscape restoration fits all of those bills. So at the moment, Africa is a place where 60% of the soils have been degraded. And so by restoration, what we mean is a very simple idea. It is taking carbon up there in the atmosphere where it's causing a lot of trouble, is bringing it down to earth through the magic of photosynthesis into trees and bushes and crops and soils, where it brings, better incomes for farmers, better food security, more resilient soils, richer soils, healthier people, etc. I'm making it sound really great, and that's because it is great. And the good thing is there's now something called Africa 100, 100 million hectares of land in Africa to be brought back.
Bezos' philanthropy so far has pledged 30% of its $10 billion fund toward nature conservation, restoration and food systems transformation. The actual grants it has issued total to a little over $1.5 billion, a fund spokesperson said. What partly distinguishes Bezos' fund are the principles for its operation, much like those guiding the bookseller he built into the world's largest online retailer. Frameworks like be obsessive about results and focus on people resemble language in Amazon's tenet of customer obsession. Bezos and partner Lorna Sanchez meet the fund's team monthly, according to Steer. The Amazon founder has prodded the fund to finance well-articulated ideas for combating climate change rather than focus on issues or targets generally, Steer said.